Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Peter Bartholomew's. We warmly welcome the family of Acting Corporal Edward John Rowell, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. This evening, wreaths will be laid by family and visitors, as well as students on behalf of the following schools. From South Australia, Woodville High School and Tynedale Strathalbyn Christian School. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Acting Corporal Edward John Rowell, who was killed while serving in the Second World War. Born in Fremantle on the 9th of August 1916, Edward John Rowell was the son of George Thomas Rowell and Gertrude Alma Rowell of Bayswater, Western Australia. On the 15th of January 1941, he enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force. He was posted to the 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion, a support unit for the 8th Australian Division. The battalion came together at Northam Military Camp, east of Perth, where it carried out its training. In July 1941, the battalion moved to Adelaide and then to Darwin in October. Following Japan's entry into the war in early December 1941, the Malayan Peninsula was invaded by the Japanese forces. At the end of the month, the 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion was dispatched from Darwin to join the main body of the division in Malaya via Port Moresby. However, following a Japanese attack on Rabaul, New Britain, the convoy was turned back to Sydney to take the long way round via Fremantle. It finally reached Singapore in January 1942. From mid-January, the units of the 8th Division were involved in fierce fighting against the Japanese forces on the Malayan Peninsula, and it was not long before the 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion was in action. By the beginning of February, British and Commonwealth forces had been pushed back to the island of Singapore, and on the 9th of 8th of February, Japanese forces began landing. Almost 1,800 Australians were killed in the month-long campaign in Malaya and Singapore. 900 were killed in just 1 week of fighting on Singapore Island. The 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion suffered more than 200 casualties during the Battle of Singapore, 1/3 of its total strength. On the 12th of February, 30 members of the battalion were killed in action, including Acting Corporal Edward Rowell. He was 25 years old. His name appears on the Singapore Memorial at Kranji War Cemetery. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Acting Corporal Edward John Rowell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.